Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like Mac Voices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for Mac Voices Magazine on Flipboard. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's been a long time because he's been busy, I've been busy, and we just haven't had Mr. Bryan Chaffin back. We haven't been able to put the schedules together, but we have today.
Yay!
So, Bryan, welcome. It's great to see you.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chuck. It's always good to be on your show, man.
And it's always a disappointment when we propose it and then can't get together because of our crazy schedules.
Yeah, sorry.
I
missed something recently, didn't I? Like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we had you scheduled for one, and then something. I think the governor called or something, and you had to go.
Yeah, well, he needs me every once in a while.
Yeah.
You're a big fan, aren't you, Jerry Brown?
Jerry has his moments.
He's been doing a bang-up job.
Jerry has his moments. Yeah. So I'm one thing I'm curious about is the red leather on your hat.
Oh yeah, sure.
Is that an endangered species or?
It's crocodile. Plenty of crocodiles out there. Yeah.
Okay. I guess there are plenty of those to go around.
Yeah, and that's not the natural coloring there. It's been colored.
Yeah.
It's been colored red. There aren't too many red crocodiles that I know. They probably would be endangered.
Yeah. Well, it's very distinctive. I really like it.
Thank you. I like. Do you want to hear the story about the headband?
Sure, love to hear the story.
I bought one very similar with the hat, and I was out having lunch with a friend and must have tossed it. Anyway, it fell off, so I had to go and buy another one. It's not a very good story.
Oh, but you mean the original band fell off?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. It's it's way too expensive to just casually lose. So I went and bought another one.
Oh, okay. So I'm now just finally getting it. So you had a red crocodile hat band.
Yes.
And you had to replace it with another.
I had to replace it because I lost it because it just fell off. So this one has some two-sided tape on the inside.
Yeah, you can
It's special hat felt tape, so that it doesn't ruin the felt.
You can fix anything with one kind of tape or another.
Yeah, I just wish they'd put it on there when I bought the first one. Yeah. But to be fair, this way they got two of them, so they sold me two of them. So Yeah, great story, huh? I'm really glad I
appreciate it because honestly, I bet there are a lot of listeners that don't know that those hat bands you can replace those hat bands if they come off. So
fair enough. Yeah.
So
they can actually. Here's the really interesting thing. This true story. So with the felt hat, they can reshape it completely. Right, so they could take my hat. Like if they when they replace if they ever need to replace the inside, the lining, or the leather band that goes on the inside that actually sits against your head, they would turn around and completely reshape the whole darn thing when they were putting that back together. It's like amazing inventions, cowboy hats.
I did not know that.
I didn't either.
I mean,
reshape it.
What do they call it? I've seen when they block. I think the term is blocking the hat.
Yeah, I think so. Yes,
but I've never really appreciated, I guess, what went into that or why.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, and it's just like I said, amazing inventions, cowboy hats. Very practical, very very useful. Waterproof.
This is a tech podcast, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how we got on cowboy hats, but that's okay. It's
And I'm wearing the natural costume of the cowboy in the wild. They regularly wear disco shirts. The disco shirts and cowboy hats with red crocodile.
With red crocodile, yeah.
Yeah. New York City.
Yeah. Well, I thought we would do a little bit of a cross-up between a couple different kinds of things I've done in the past.
Okay.
Ask you a few questions, get you to throw out a few ideas, of maybe hop around a little more than we usually do, because there have been a couple things I was anxious to get your thoughts on.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start out. The new Facebook smart speaker.
Is there a new Facebook smart speaker? Are you kidding me?
No, I'm serious.
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg can go F himself. Like, just seriously, I don't want a Facebook phone. I don't want a Facebook. No, that's like so desperate to be things that he's not, and for the company to be things that it's not, and for the platform to be things that it's not. Screw Facebook.
Okay, well, that was pretty succinct. I guess I was sort of surprised with all the leaks that are coming out and all the problems.
Was this something that has been announced? I honestly did not know about this.
No,
has this been announced or is it just leaked?
No, I think it's announced. As far as I know, it's been out there now for a week and a half, something like that.
I'm sure it'll last for many weeks more. It's going to be at least as successful as the Amazon Fire Phone.
Well, didn't Facebook do a phone at one point?
They were doing a phone at one point, I think, or they were planning on it. And one way or another, it's no longer among the living.
I find it really intriguing that they would try this, because we've had the discussion so often about you being the product that Facebook sells, as opposed to the Amazon situation where Amazon is trying to sell things to you.
Yeah, but they're still marketing and they're still developing a profile and they're still leeching through your life to add to that profile so that they can sell you stuff. Only, they're not adding the middlemen of extra external third-party advertising, but it's still the same thing. You're still the product with Amazon.
Yeah, but at least in theory, the only purchaser of that product is Amazon.
Yay!
It's in their best interest to deliver things to you, advertising, if you will, or information that pertains to things you're interested in.
Nonetheless, I don't need Amazon to know when I need paper towels. I just don't need that. I don't need them to know when I'm pooping. I don't need them to know when I run out of juice. I don't need them to know when I need anything until I order it. I just don't need them to know those things. I just do not need them to know more about my life. Same thing with Facebook, same thing with Google. They can all go F themselves.
So, Bryan, for you, I mean, if you can articulate it, where's the boundary? Because it seems like you have to you have to decide how much you're willing to give up in order to get the convenience of using some services. And so where's the boundary for you?
Well, all right. So I do use Google search engine, despite all my protestations. I love Facebook's groups. We have a group for the Apple Context Machine that I really enjoy. The Mac Geek Gab group has been great. I love groups on Facebook, and I use it. I am on Facebook, but I don't use it. But I have it, but I don't use it. I have an account, but I don't use it. The line for me is really so look at what Apple's doing. Apple needs to know about our lives to make Siri more useful. But Apple is learning more about our lives in such a way as to not have a profile on me, and for its intent not to be to build the profile. Whereas, Amazon has Alexa and all of the other things, not just to sell you something, but so that they can build their profile so that they can then sell stuff, right? The purpose of these cheap products from Amazon is still to develop the profile. The purpose of the quote unquote free products from Google is still to build the profile. It exists to build the profile. It doesn't exist to do something for you. They figured out how to do something for you so that they can build a profile. And the same thing with Facebook. Everything Facebook does is designed to connect people and then to add to their profile so that they can sell that information. And the line to me from where I'm most comfortable is both in intent and practice. I like the way Apple does things to that end. And I wish that Apple would actually be more intrusive in my life because they're not developing a profile for me, because they are not storing all this data about me on their servers. And so I don't know if I'm actually answering your question, but there you have it.
You are, and so let me be very clear. I agree with you on the Apple stance, if you will. So what I'm going to ask is going to be devil's advocate. But one thing we've seen since our S-Lady friend came out is that she does not seem to be as intelligent, as responsive, as accurate as some of the competitors. And the farther you dig into that, the farther down it becomes obvious that that's because she doesn't know as much as some of the competitors about you. So she can't deliver the same things to you, and yet she's criticized for it. And so that's where that's why I'm asking about the balance.
Well, those are all really good points, Chuck. Although we have to separate some of it. Alexa is not smart. She is stupid. She doesn't know what you're saying. She only knows how to match the specific sound signatures speak to specific actions. She's not listening to understand. She's listening to be a dumb parrot. And most of the things that she can do are being provided by skills where you have to then train yourself how to use that skill. So that's still not smart. So, I mean, you said that Siri seems to be dumber, and that is true. Seems to be. Siri is actually smarter, but in practical effect, Siri is behind Alexa in practical effect. Despite the fact that Siri is smarter, despite the fact that Alexa is a dumb parrot, Alexa appears to be ahead of Siri, and in practical terms is. The question is whether or not Apple can ramp up its efforts to have Siri actually understand you and actually be able to have a conversation with you as opposed to just being a dumb parrot. If they can ramp up that technology fast enough for it to have a practical effect where Siri no longer feels like she is running behind the competition. And that is a legitimate question. Like, I don't know that Apple can do that. So far, they're not showing us that they could do that.
And I'm not sure it's a fair expectation to have of Apple, because you make a great point, and we're throwing the terms of smart and dumb around very loosely. But at some point, if she doesn't know that I like cheeseburgers and spaghetti, then she's going to have a hard time recommending the right restaurant for me.
True, but she won't have to have a hard time very long, because you won't be of this earth for very long eating cheeseburgers and spaghetti. Oh, did you not mean at the same time?
No, not at the same time.
Okay, my mistake. My mistake. No, you're right. And that's the thing where, like I remember Tim Cook. I can't remember if I said this on your show before. Tim Cook once said that we don't think, referring to Apple, we don't think your new, this is going to be a paraphrase. We don't think that the news app needs to know what music you just listened to. And I completely disagree with that. I absolutely and positively want Apple News to know that I like the Black Angels and the Warlocks and the Brian Jonestown Massacre and the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club, because I want Apple News to give me news about those bands, even though I didn't ask for it. So like Tim was dead wrong about that. Unfortunately, he hasn't said it in a while, and I hope that he recognized the mistake in saying that. And I also hope that him saying that doesn't actually reflect what they're trying to do, because the reality is that there is a lot of value in a platform knowing a lot about you. It's what they do with that information that where I get cranky. And so again, Apple is doing things in a way, they store the things that they learned about you are stored on your device, not with Apple. That's a great thing. That, to me, that's a great thing. But then to get back to where we were, the practical effect is that Apple runs seemingly behind the competition, and they need to not seemingly be behind anyone.
Okay, so your point is really well taken. And I guess what I'd love to see is Apple build the profile of you on your phone so that it doesn't go anywhere.
I'm actually fine with Apple building its profile on its own servers, to be honest, even though I just essentially said the exact opposite.
Well, is that because you trust Apple more?
Because I trust Apple more. And because Apple is doing things like differential privacy, where have you talked about that with other guests before?
No.
That really? Never?
Not that I know of.
Oh,
not that
great.
I recall,
I should know just enough to get myself in a lot of trouble. So let's dive head
why
first.
we're here. That's why
Differential privacy is the it's the idea that you learn enough about someone while keeping what you're learning separate from that someone, so that you don't need to tie it to that someone. And one of the things that they do in differential privacy is throw away the lessons, but keep the conclusions, which is kind of how we work as humans. For instance, I'm guessing that you shouldn't touch a hot burner on the stove.
Yes.
Do you remember every incidence of having touched a hot burner on yourself?
No, probably can honestly say I don't remember any. I just, at some point I learned the lesson and didn't do it.
At some point you probably ended up, well, it's always possible, of course, that an individual didn't actually touch the hot burner, but watch someone else, or you just figured out as you got your hand close enough to it to the top. But the point is that's the way the human brain works. We toss out the individual data points and retain their conclusion all the time. All the time we do this. We're doing this all the time. We don't know why. We don't remember every time we've heard a song. We just know that we like it. Right? We don't know why it is. We're not going to remember every single reason why we love the fall. I love the fall. Do you like the fall?
Don't know them.
The fall. Sorry, the season. The fall.
Oh, the fall. Excuse me.
Yes.
I always think in terms of music with you.
Nice and cold.
I love the fall.
It's there is a band called The Fall, by the way.
Okay.
An English band, but anyway, whatever.
Autumn.
But you probably don't remember all the reasons why the fall has been a lovely time to you. I remember something. I certainly remember some things that I've done in the fall. Some things that are certainly special to me, but I don't remember all of them. And anyway, this is how we learn. We throw away the individual data points. We retain the conclusion. Otherwise, our brains would be full of unnecessary things. Because the important bit is not the 5 times or the 2 times or the 1 time or the almost time that you touch the burner. The important thing is that not to touch the darn hot burner. Make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, so this is one of the things that Apple is employing in order to help protect our privacy. So yeah, we know that Bryan likes to listen to the Black Angels, but we don't really need to remember the 7,200 times that Bryan has listened to a Black Angel song, and when that was, and where that was, and how long he listened to it, etc. Because that's an aspect we don't want to intrude that much into his life. Make sense?
Okay.
You seem doubtful.
Well, I don't seem doubtful. If I seem doubtful, Bryan, I hear your point, and I guess I'm wondering how much do the competing services remember when you listen to the Black Angels, as opposed to doing the same thing?
I don't know for a fact. My assumption is every time they're just piling it into our profiles, because you never know when you're going to want to mine that for more information. I could be wrong. I don't know exactly what Google's doing by any stretch of the imagination, or Amazon or Facebook.
So do you think it's more important? Would it be potentially more important to know that you like to listen to the Black Angels, let's say right before at bedtime, right before you go?
Yeah, there is potential value in that. And I mean, and this is one way that Apple's able to do this stuff where they're storing this information on their phone, because they don't have to maintain all the individual data points. They can just retain the conclusion, which takes a lot less space than recording everything and constantly analyzing through it. And yeah, there are trade-offs here, right? There are trade-offs. And so my big example, and this is going back several years now, my big example is a buddy of mine looked up a band on the Google. He's an Android user, and he's a big Google Now fan. And Google Now is the best, in my opinion, is the best aspect of Android. It's Apple's Proactive is like Google Now, but like short bus. Like, it's not, I mean, it's nowhere near as good as what Google Now is. And so he looked up this band on Google, and 6 months later, that band is coming to San Francisco. And Google Now says, hey, this band's coming to San Francisco. Do you want tickets? That's great, isn't it? That's great. That's so useful. How can you possibly not be nodding along?
Well, I guess I'm not nodding along because I mean, I like plenty of bands, as you well know, but I don't necessarily look them all up on Google. So if I did look
but this is just one example.
Yeah, but I guess
actually, let me back up. The reason why this example is important is because of the serendipitous aspect of it. He looked up this one band on Google once, and Google Now remembered that, rather than it being a thing where he was constantly listening to this band. Right? It's the mere fact that it was actually just sort of a one-off, and he kind of forgotten the band existed. And Google Now remembered the band existed, remembered that he was interested, put two and two together, saw that the band was coming, and asked my buddy if he wanted to get tickets for this band. That's useful.
So you're applauding it? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, I'm applauding it. I'm not willing to do what it would take for me to have that, which is to sell my soul to Google.
Okay.
But I'm applauding it. This is one of the reasons why I wish Apple would get into search. In addition to crushing Google, if Apple were to do, especially if Apple were to do search that was not ad supported, that was just free, it would just suck the profits right out of Google, and it would just be brilliant. But I wish that Apple would get into search so that it can learn more about me and also learn more about how to learn. And that is a fine example of that.
Yeah, but by the very nature of getting into search, Apple's going to have to do a lot more. They would have to change a lot of their policies. They're going to have to get a lot more intrusive.
Well, that's just it, though. I trust Apple to handle my data correctly. Let me put it another way. I trust Apple to use my data for me, not for Apple. that's the thing.
Okay, that's well said.
I trust. I'm sorry about I'm like rocking my desk apparently. I trust Google to use my doodle. I trust Google to use my data for the benefit of Google. And I trust Facebook to use my data for the benefit of Facebook. Matter of fact, I actually trust Google more to use my data for me than I trust it for Facebook. But anyway, the point is I trust like all of these companies. I have absolute faith and confidence that they're going to use my data for their own benefit. And I have faith and confidence that Apple's going to use my data for my benefit. I like that.
I agree. And I believe it or not, I agree with your hierarchy there. I feel like I trust Apple at the top. I feel like I probably trust Amazon second, and Google third, and Facebook fourth.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, and you may not agree with that, but
I might put like Amazon and Google kind of on the same pedestal, and for different ways, because Amazon's primary motivation is to sell me more stuff.
Right.
And Google's primary motivation is to learn more about me so that they can sell me more data. They're I don't know, they're both pretty equal there.
Yeah, okay. I'll give you that.
Facebook's goal is to basically just do whatever the heck it can to pursue whatever motives and goals it has. Like they just, Mark Zuckerberg does not have the wisdom for the power that he has. He was too, I don't think I've said this on your show either. There's a huge difference between the tech icons from, a half a generation before and the tech icons that came up after. Like if you look at Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, but really Steve Jobs, he was super young when he became filthy, filthy rich. And when Apple became a very big deal, and he didn't necessarily have a lot of wisdom at the time. He certainly made a lot of mistakes, both with his employees and probably with the way he treated customers and thought about customers. But his lack of wisdom didn't impact every aspect of our life. Mark Zuckerberg came along and he was a kid, just like Steve Jobs was. But the software platform that he grew has become this massively important aspect to a huge percentage of the world. And he doesn't have the wisdom to deal with it. And his decisions have more of an impact on everyone's life than Steve Jobs's ever did. Even at the height of Steve Jobs' power before he died.
Yeah, because of the way the world has gone.
Because of the way the world's gone. And the same thing is true with Google, with Sergey and Larry Page, who also have an inordinate amount of power and influence over our lives. I think that they are smarter and wiser than Mark Zuckerberg, but I don't think any of them really have the wisdom to properly wield the power that they have.
I guess the way I see it, Brian, these folks have a different kind of power than Woz and Jobs had, because these things are now so ubiquitous. They're in everybody's lives, and they have the power or the possibility of influencing everyone with their vision of what things should be. And I'll take Zuckerberg as an example. I mean, in the early days, and I think it probably still is, he wants everybody to share everything. Because it benefits him. Well,
it's the same thing. Hold on.
Unfortunately, you're probably right. I agree with you. There is that aspect to it. But it seemed a bit more naive and a bit more pure in the beginning. Maybe. Yeah.
I've heard him say this crap about connecting everybody and how freaking awesome it is to connect everybody. But then I hear the company weighing decisions because they can sell more ads. So I'm not buying we're really just in this for the benefit of the entire world. To me at this point, that may have been something in the early days of Facebook, but at some point that became a side effect of making more money.
How am I going to argue with that? Because time after time, there is evidence that is what's driving it.
Time after time after time after time after time after time after time, Facebook, it seems at every turn makes the wrong decision, ethically and morally,
or violates our trust.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I don't disagree with you, and it's a shame too, because you and I both. You were talking about the groups on Facebook that you're part of, and of course, I run the MacVoices group on Facebook too. Same thing. We both want audiences. We have audiences. We want audiences. We want to connect with them, so we go to where the audiences already are, and that's almost a necessary evil. Yeah, you can.
It's actually one reason why Facebook groups work is because people are already there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't have to go anywhere else. I mean, I know that you can set up forums and all, and I tried that for a while, and that just becomes a maintenance nightmare because there's so many bots out there that are constantly beating on the forums. So you and I both are using Facebook's assets because theoretically, I mean, it benefits them to provide us with a safe place and a place we can go where it's not constantly being spammed.
Yeah.
And yet, you and I are sitting here talking about feeling taken advantage of by the very organization that's doing it. Does that make us hypocritical?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that hypocrisy. I'm not claiming to be perfect, and I'm not even demanding perfection, but I feel very comfortable with the idea that I can criticize something even if I use it or like it.
Okay, that's fair.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, that's fair because I feel the same way. I feel a little strange about using it when I'm such a harsh critic of it, and I understand why people leave Facebook, but I'm not sure that's really the solution.
Facebook, man, no one leaves Facebook. All that noise about people leaving Facebook after the last data breach or whatever the heck it was. No one, their Facebook's numbers didn't change.
Well, not in the aggregate, no. I mean, you and I both know some people that have left Facebook, but I also hear people that left it in a fit of anger, and then come back to it because they are disconnected from friends and family because those friends and family all stayed. And there's really nothing else out there right now. I mean, Twitter sort of, unfortunately, that they lost their standing, and so it's really difficult.
So I spend a lot more time on Twitter than I spend hundreds of times more time on Twitter than I do on Facebook.
Well, I guess so. Maybe I just revealed my feelings about it. That it seems like Twitter has become so much more politicized than, at least in my feed, than Facebook, that all my tech friends, I was looking through it the other day, and I was shocked at the number of tech friends that aren't doing anything on Twitter, but they are on Facebook, or maybe they are over on micro.blog, or that those are about the only other things, or even on Instagram, that they're more active.
Yeah, I'm a lot more active on Instagram. I spend probably 30 minutes a day on Instagram.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I enjoy Instagram.
I know how strongly you feel about some of this stuff, and I think I was anxious to hear what your kind of latest take is on some of it, because it does become a bit of a slippery slope, especially when you get to the point you feel like you need to be on Facebook.
Nah, not me.
Well, but you are.
With the groups, but not. I don't pay any attention to my feed. Friends or family ask me, "Oh, did you see the photo I put on Facebook?" No, I didn't.
Yeah, but you're still engaged with Facebook in some fashion. You might be doing it in your little corner and doing and controlling it as much as you can, but it's still Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. I feel like I've got a club and I meet in Facebook's, in a meeting room in Facebook's headquarters, which is a lot different than using the rest of Facebook.
Okay. All right. I'll buy that. That's fair. That's fair. Gee, that took a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, that's a great little lightning round.
Yeah. Yes. So much for the whole lightning round concept. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, and it's maybe it's just the very same thing, is Google Plus going down.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on any thoughts on why it didn't work? Did Google abuse it? Did Google not maintain it? Why they had an opportunity? Why'd they lose it?
Because the world, Google was really interested in competing with Facebook, and the world was not looking for a Facebook competitor. Not really. I mean, how many platforms that do the same thing can the world support? And increasingly, we're seeing that it's often one. Right, the others, the social platforms that sort of become a lasting entity, like we've seen plenty of Facebook killers come and go, right? We've seen Twitter competitors come and go. I know that you're a fan of the microblogging concept, but with Google Plus was essentially trying to replace Facebook, and no one was asking for Facebook to be replaced. Not really. And I actually, to finish up the other thought, the ones that have survived are doing something particular and different. They're they're opening up a new niche in our lives in some way. And Google Plus didn't do that.
Okay, that's a pretty darn good analysis, because Instagram did seem to open up a new niche, and
very much so. And Twitter did too.
Yeah,
and Snapchat did. Although Snapchat has its own issues, but Snapchat was doing something that was different. WhatsApp was doing something that was different at the time. Telegram is doing something specialized. Right? None of those services are trying to replace Facebook. And Facebook owns two of them, but that's just nitpicking.
Bryan, why does it seem like, and I know, listen, I get sick of the pundits telling these corporate giants what they should be doing, but it does seem like, and especially in the case of Twitter, I'm thinking right now, that the things that people love about the platform are not supported, not followed up on, sometimes even eliminated. And I don't get it. It's like, is that part of the vision thing we talked about with Zuckerberg earlier, that they have a vision of how their platform should be used or should evolve, as opposed to the way that most of their users, or the majority of their users, want it to evolve?
Can you say this again?
Well, okay, I'm picking on Twitter. But Twitter has all but eliminated third-party clients.
Yes.
Twitter had, for a while there, experimented with curating your stream as opposed to just giving it to you the way it comes out, out of the computer, in real time.
Yes.
And so the very things that folks valued about it are things that they decided to get away from, instead of trying to figure out, okay, how can we leverage those things and make the feed more immediate, not curated, but more immediate.
Well, the curation thing was, I think, an attempt to solve the reality that many people have many people follow more people than they can actually keep track of. And the thing is that we weren't asking for them to solve that problem. But I think that's where that came from. The elimination of third-party clients is a whole kettle of a different kettle of fish. Am I getting the right
Metaphor?
Metaphor. Yeah, different kettle of fish. That is hubris, and I don't even know what the crap that is. It infuriates me. I mean, like, Twitter decided that it would be much better for Twitter if I use Twitter on the web, and I don't want to use Twitter on the web. So why? It may be for Twitter that the economics are so dire that for them, they'd rather lose people who don't want to use Twitter on the web than to continue having people not do it. And that's the only reason that makes any sense. To me, that is the only justifiable reason to have been doing what they're doing, hamstringing the clients, the power users, the influencers. That's the weird thing about Twitter's action there, is that influencers use these third-party tools. The people that are driving a lot of the content that makes the platform are using the tools that Twitter doesn't want us to apparently use. And then they don't even give us the tools on their preferred medium that we want, like the ability to manage multiple profiles and things like that. It's and the ability to schedule tweets, and they make that hard. I'm getting cranky just thinking about it.
Well, and that's why I asked the question, because I recognize that it's their platform and they can do with it what they want, just like Apple has done plenty of things that people weren't happy with because it's their platform and they felt like this is the way it should be used and this is the direction they wanted to take it. But with some of these decisions, that you're right, there's not even a good long-term justification for it. And so, I mean, your example is perfect. Having to use Twitter on the web in the age of mobile devices makes zero sense.
Well, but they do have a solid Twitter app for at least iOS.
Yeah.
I have no idea of its quality on Android because I really couldn't care less about Android. But like on the Mac, which is where I personally do the vast majority of my Twittering, I don't want to do it on the web.
Right.
I don't. And so not only are they hamstringing third-party Mac apps, they killed their own Mac app. They had the app. They had the person that did it. It was there. Just update it. Do the thing. Do your job. So yeah.
Are you on blood pressure meds by any chance?
I don't know. Maybe I should be.
Yeah. After this show, maybe I didn't mean to get you all this wound up. So we got to get you back more, because all we did was we got through the cowboy hat and.
Yeah, this is the worst lightning round ever.
Yeah, I should have realized. I
I said to you before the show, are you just meeting me?
Yeah, but I can't help but respond, because you bring up some really interesting points, and then I want to follow through with them and hear your reactions. So,
thanks.
We will make this. We have to make this a much more often.
We say that every time, and then we don't do it. All the times we say, oh my God, let's do this more often. This is so awesome. This is so great, because it is. And then we rinse, repeat every 8 months.
All right. I'm gonna add something to the calendar. Hey Siri, add Bryan Chaffin to each month's calendar.
I can't get that info for you.
Yeah, that's great, Siri.
There we go.
Great, Siri.
She's answering all over the place.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
So right now you're doing Apple Context Machine. You're on the daily observations regularly.
Yep.
What else am I missing?
The TMOs.
Yeah, well, I mean, that goes without saying that you write for TMO on a regular basis.
Yep.
Still doing the Bitcoin thing?
Yeah, still involved, still hobbying the faucets and things like that. Yep.
Okay. And how's the novel situation?
The novel situation, there's nothing novel about the novel situation right now. I have not had the time to spend on shopping my novel out. So I think I have a full request that's still out, and got a little writing done on another book a couple of weeks ago. So which is much, much better than I've done since the last time I've talked to you. So that's, there's that.
Okay. All right. Well, we will check in at least more regularly to find out about all those activities.
Fair enough.
All right.
Thank
Brian,
you.
great to see you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We will be back with more soon. And yes, we will get Brian back here more often if we can drag him away from being so busy. As always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Mac Voices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep Mac Voices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.